I'm going to talk about getting the film look on iOS. So most of these apps are available for both the iPad and the iPhone. So I'm gonna break it down by complexity. So the least complex ones are these disposable film camera emulators, for lack of a better word. So there's a paid one called Kodak and a free one called Fuji, which are obviously plays on Kodak and Fuji, which are the biggest film producers, celluloid film producers. I haven't had any experience with Kodak, but with Fuji, I've played around with the app. So if you're not aware of what these apps do, they basically replicate the experience of a disposable film camera. So they kind of look like one, and you take a picture with one, and then you wave a bit, and you get your image back. The app kind of does all the processing in the background, and you really have no control over your final product. It's just kind of like film where you don't really have any control over it. I think these apps aren't made for photographers per se, but just people that are looking to recreate some kind of film experience. So I definitely wouldn't recommend this for anybody that would call themselves a enthusiast photographer per se, but it's kind of just a toy to kind of get fast results. So this is definitely for people that just kind of want to give their images kind of a cool look from their phone, because you can't import any photos into it. It's like you're using a disposable camera. So next I'm going to talk about the kind of next level of what film emulation is on iOS, and that's the Instagram app. So the Instagram app actually gives you quite a bit of control over your images. There's plenty of settings to play around with, and the presets, or the filters as they're called, give a wide range of effects. It's clear that they're not going for like any specific film stock, but it's just kind of a general retro vibe. This is definitely for people that just kind of want to have a little bit more control over their photos, but share them on Instagram right away. So the next step is kind of the happy medium, I'd say, the one I'd recommend for most people, and that is VSCO. So VSCO is free itself. You just kind of sign up, get an account, and right away it gives you some presets to work with. These presets aren't specific film stocks, but they're kind of replicating stuff from the past. You can get Polaroid kind of looks, kind of 35mm type thing. The great thing about this is that you can import photos from your photo app, which means you can import photos from your camera. This app offers a lot of controls, and they're clearly putting a lot of effort into it over at VSCO headquarters. Here's where VSCO gets really good. So VSCO has a service called VSCO X. VSCO X offers a whole bunch of film presets. So these are real film stocks that are still made today and were made in the past. So you have films from Agfa, Ilford, Kodak, and Fuji, and I find the results to be quite pleasing. So generally, when it comes to accuracy, digital is never gonna truly replicate all the intricacies that go into a film image. There are a lot of variables in celluloid film, but with a little bit of tweaking, you can get images that kind of harken back to that era, and you can get some nice effects. Now, the service does cost money. It's about $28 a year, but for my work, it's been more than helpful and more than worth it. So now the most complicated and the most intricate one is probably Lightroom on iOS. So Lightroom gives you the most control over your image. So you can edit just about any parameter you can think of, minus kind of things where you're cutting out parts of the image and moving them, which would be something Photoshop would specialize in. So the only kind of issue with Lightroom when it comes to replicating film is that there are no actual presets, at least not ones built into the app. So you gotta really know what you're doing if you want to replicate something. I found that having a reference image from an actual 35mm camera and then using that image to get the look in Lightroom and then copying those settings over was what gave the best results when it comes to accuracy. Lightroom is free, but if you want to edit raw images, you gotta pay $8 a month. Then if you want Lightroom on your desktop computer as well, that'll be $10 USD, which gives you access to all the premium features on the iPad app and the laptop. But if you're an experienced photographer, I'm sure you already have Lightroom. And I want to talk about Lightroom presets for just a quick second. So people offer these preset packs that you import into Lightroom to replicate certain looks on different photos. So this is where VSCO comes back into the equation, because they actually started off by creating Lightroom presets that replicate film stocks. So generally these presets cost quite a bit of money, much more than a VSCO X subscription, that's for sure. And another thing with the presets is that they are not quite supported yet on iOS. There's ways to get around it, but it's pretty complicated. So it's just another thing to keep in mind. So just to recap, if you are kind of just doing this for fun, you kind of want to have something quick, and you don't need to know a lot about photography, I recommend Fuji. So if you're kind of intermediate, I recommend VSCO. It's kind of the best of both worlds when it comes to choosing all the parameters of your picture and really making it your own, along with presets that you can use to edit your picture. Now, if you're somebody who is very into all the nitty-gritty stuff, Lightroom's definitely your best bet on iOS right now. So if you want to learn more about what it's like to be a photographer using an iOS device, I have a video somewhere, probably in the cards or the description. And if you actually want to get into real 35mm film, I recommend my other video, how to get into 35mm film. Copyright?